Neuroscience News Reading. Adults show poorer cognition, better well-being with age. Adults show poorer cognition, better well-being with age. You're listening to Neuroscience News Reading, presented by Hakeem Alibokis Alexander on the Wisdom app for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. From neurosciencenews.com, we have an article titled Adults Show Poorer Cognition, Better Well-Being with Age. It's from September 18th, 2022, featured in Neuroscience and Psychology. I got a little distracted because Sarah Delvalle just showed up in my room. Hi, Sarah. All right. You're more than welcome to come up and hang out with me while I read this neuroscience news. You always need fighter jets to fly overhead. As much noise and cars and stuff as possible in the background, people, you need ambient noise. Best if you can get two microphones at either 90 degrees or 100 and 20 degrees angles from each other, so you can get a good binaural recording. That'll work. Hey, Sarah.
Distracted you. What is it that distracted you?
You coming all up in my room while I'm trying to read my neuroscience news for World Reading Club.
Well, I had to hear some science news.
All right. Well, here's the science news. I'm gonna read this second one.
Okay.
It's pretty interesting because I've noticed some fascinating things about reading neuroscience news and biotechniques and military and aerospace news and genetic engineering and biotechnology news and all this other stuff, electronic design and, man, there's so many of them. But as reading them every day has definitely improved my understanding of a lot of things, but it's also, I don't know if they do that on purpose, but it's changed my mind completely about the medical and pharmaceutical industry. So I think that's fascinating.
It sounds fascinating.
So I'm going to read Adults Show. How does that jet sound, by the way? Does it sound good?
How did the what?
The jet flying overhead, does it sound good?
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, like I have a jet. It's flying over my head. It's making a rumbling noise. I'm wondering if it's gonna add to my neuroscience news reading. Jeez, it's hot outside today.
It is. I'm outside now. I'm headed to the car. Or vehicle.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea if you ask me. So okay, so let me just get into this neuroscience news here. I gotta read this. I took a video of a spider crawling all over me today. Okay, here we go.
Seriously?
You're listening.
God. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right, you're gonna have to shut that down. All right. Listening, here we go. Where am I at? All right. Neurosciencenews.com. Adults show poorer cognition, better well-being with age. September 18th, 2022. Summary. Significantly worse symptoms of depression, anxiety, and loneliness were seen in younger people, while older people showed greater mental well-being. However, when it came to cognition, task performance was worse in older adults. Source, 'The young and old could learn a thing or two from each other.' at least when it comes to mental health and cognition. In a new study published September 12th, 2022 in Psychology and Aging, researchers at University of California, San Diego School of Medicine found that healthy older adults show greater mental well-being but poorer cognitive performance than younger adults. The underlying neural mechanisms may inspire new interventions to promote healthy brain function. We wanted to understand the interplay between cognition and mental health across aging, and whether they rely on activation of similar or different brain areas, said senior author Jyoti Mishra, PhD, director of the NEAT Labs and associate professor of psychiatry at UC San Diego School of Medicine. The study sampled 62 healthy younger adults in their 20s and 54 healthy older adults above age 60. Researchers evaluated patients' mental health, surveying symptoms of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and overall mental well-being. Participants also performed several cognitively demanding tasks while their brain activity was measured using electroencephalography. The results showed significantly worse symptoms of anxiety, depression in youth, and greater mental well-being in older adults. Yet when it came to cognition, task performance was significantly lower in older adults. EEG recordings revealed that during the tasks, older adults showed greater activity in anterior portions of the brain's default mode network. This group of brain areas is typically active when an individual is ruminating, daydreaming, or mind-wandering, and is usually suppressed during goal-oriented tasks. The default mode network is useful in other contexts, helping us... Something just happened to my reader. Okay, here we go again. Neuroscience News continues. The default mode network is useful in other contexts, helping us process the past and imagine the future. But it's distracting when you're trying to focus on the present to tackle a demanding task with speed and accuracy, said Mishra. While the default mode network seemed to interfere with cognition, several other brain areas appeared to improve it. Better task performance in younger adults was associated with greater activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, part of the brain's executive control system. In the older adults, however, those with better cognitive performance instead showed greater activity in the inferior frontal cortex, an area that helps guide attention and avoid distractions. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is known to degrade with aging, so the researchers suggest the increased inferior frontal cortex activity may be a way for older adults to compensate during these tasks. The team is now looking into therapeutic interventions to strengthen these frontal networks, such as brain stimulation methods, while also suppressing the default mode network through mindfulness meditation or other practices that orient individuals to the present. These findings may provide new neurological markers to help monitor and mitigate cognitive decline in aging, while simultaneously preserving well-being, said Mishra. The study may also inspire new ways of addressing the mental health of younger adults. We tend to think of people in their 20s as being at their peak cognitive performance, but it is also a very stressful time in their lives. So when it comes to mental well-being, there may be lessons to be learned from older adults and their brains. Their brains, Mishra said. Co-authors of the study include Gillian Grennan, Pragati Priyadharsini, Balasubramani Nasi. That's one person's name. He's got three names. Pragati Priyadharsani Balasubramani, Nasim Vahidi, Dakshin Ramanathan, and wow. Okay, that was the second time it happened. You guys couldn't hear that, but the first time a jet flew over and then a car came by rumbling bass, and then it just now happened again. All right, that's a coincidence. Co-authors of the study include Gillian Grennan, Pragati Priyadarsani, Bala Subramani, Naseem Vahidi, Dakshin Ramanathan, and Dilip V. Jesti, all at UC San Diego. Funding for the study came in part from the National Institute of Mental Health grant, the interdisciplinary research. You know, I'm all for UAPs now, and for we need to have some kind of other exotic flight technology, because that stuff is too loud. All right. Neuroscience News continues for funding. Funding for the study came in part from the National Institute of Mental Health, the Interdisciplinary Research Fellowship in Neuro AIDS, the Stein Institute for Research on Aging at UC San Diego, the Brain Behavior Research Fund, the Kavli Foundation, the Burroughs Wellcome Fund Career Award for Medical Scientists, and the Sanford Institute for Empathy and Compassion. About this cognition, psychology, and aging research news. Author Scott Lafitte. Contact UCSD. Source Scott Lafitte, UCSD. If you're reading this article or when you're reading it on neurosciencenews.com, the featured image is in the public domain. Original research. Closed access. Dissociable neural mechanisms of cognition and well-being in youth versus healthy aging, by Grennan G. and others, Psychology and Aging. You've been listening to Neuroscience News Reading, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on the Wisdom app for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. All right. Neuroscience News continues with an abstract from Dissociable Neural Mechanisms of Cognition and Well-Being in Youth versus Healthy Aging. Mental health, cognition, and their underlying neural processes in healthy aging are rarely studied simultaneously. Here, in a sample of healthy younger, number equals 62, so 62 healthy younger adults and 54 older adults, we compared subjective mental health as well as objective global cognition across several core cognitive domains with simultaneous electroencephalography. Now, that was the end of a sentence. Here, in a sample of 62 healthy younger adults and 54 older adults, we compared subjective mental health as well as objective global cognition across several core cognitive domains with simultaneous electroencephalography. We found significantly greater symptoms of anxiety, depression, and loneliness in youth, and in contrast, greater mental well-being in older adults. Yet, global performance across core cognitive domains was significantly worse in older adults. EEG-based source imaging of global cognitive tasks, evoked processing showed reduced suppression of activity in the anterior medial prefrontal default modal network, BMN, region in older adults relative to youth. Once again, EEG-based sourced imaging of global cognitive task, evoked processing showed reduced suppression of activity in the anterior medial prefrontal default mode network region in older adults relative to youth. Global cognitive performance efficacy was predicted by greater activity in the right dorsolateral prefrontal cortex in younger adults, and in contrast, by greater activity in right inferior frontal cortex in older adults. Furthermore, greater mental well-being in older adults related to lesser global task evoked activity in the posterior DMN. Overall, these results suggest dissociated neural mechanisms underlying global cognition and mental well-being in youth versus healthy aging. Neuroscience News asks you to join our newsletter. Sign up to receive our recent neuroscience headlines and summaries sent to your email once a day, totally free. We hate spam and only use your email to contact you about newsletters. You can cancel your subscription anytime. Neuroscience News posts science research news from labs, universities, hospitals, and news departments around the world. Science articles can cover neuroscience, psychology, AI, robotics, neurology, brain cancer, mental health, machine learning, autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, brain research, depression, and other topics related to cognitive sciences. You've been listening to Neuroscience News Reading, presented by Hakeem Alibokas Alexander on the Wisdom app for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. All right. So, I think that's it. Adults show poorer cognition, but better well-being with age.